Hey, welcome back, Cloud Scholars. I hope everyone out there is having a blessed day. My name is Kieran Schross, and here we are again, continuing with our Azure Beginner series. In this video, what I want to do is cover a number of different topics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to a PowerPoint slide just to talk you through what we will be going through in this video. All right, so some of the things we're going to go through in this video is I'm going to introduce you to a concept called locals. And locals is basically a way of reusing your code and not having to say the same thing over and over. So you will declare a variable, and what you'll do is you'll be able to throw it in a bracket called locals, and then that's basically what you'd be using throughout your code, so you don't have to rewrite it all the time. And then if you need to change it in one place, instead of changing it in like 3 or 4 different locations, you change it in one place and then it just changes everywhere else. We'll also go through depends on, which is a dependency basically, and lets Terraform know, hey, don't do this unless this is already created. Also show you the destroy command, and then we're going to also cover virtual networks, how to set that up, using adding subnets to it, security group, and then finally associate security group with your subnet. So the first thing we want to cover is doing locals. So right here, what we have is a Azure resource group. It's called the marketing resource group, and its name is MKT. Sorry, it should be MKTRSG. Just noticed that typo. And then the location is East US. So what I'm going to do is, what I like to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say locals.tf. And I'm going to create a new folder, a new file, and I'm going to call it locals. And what I want to do is I want to take this that's here, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say resource group name. And I'm going to say it's going to be MKT resource group. And then over here, I'm going to say location. And the location will be East US, and I'll hit save. So going back over to my main.tf, I will now change this local.resource group name, and then location is going to be local.location. So what it's doing is it's going to local, right, which is this right here. And it's going to say, hey, local.resource group name, and then location as well, right? And I know it says locals and they call it local, but that's just how it kind of comes through within Terraform. And what I want to do is jump over to the portal really quickly. Okay, so we have our market resource group, our marketing resource group, which is right here, this one right here. So what I want to do is I want to show you the destroy command. So I'm going to jump back to the Terraform. And remember, we changed the name to, we didn't change the name, but we just used it as local as a reference for the name and the location. So what I want to do is say destroy, or I can say Terraform, excuse me, destroy, and yours may show up a little different. You probably won't do this little symbol right here, but that's fine. And give me a second, destroy. There we go. And right here, you see it says, it's giving us, it's letting us know exactly what's going to happen. It says Terraform will destroy the following actions. Marketing resource group will be destroyed. So I can now say yes. And you can see it says Azure resource group, marketing resource group is destroying, still destroying. Okay, so now that is destroyed, you can see right here, we do no longer see in the resource group. So the next thing we want to do is I want to come over to our Terraform, and I want to pull up the security group. All right, so now that we're here at the Azure Network Security Group, and when you go into Terraform, you just go to your providers, or you could easily just type in, Terraform Azure Network Security Group, and you'll get to this page. And when you get to this page, it shows you how to use the code. So example usage, and what you'll notice a lot, you'll always see a resource group in these example usages. Well, for the most part. And then it says resource group, network security group example. And then in the network security group, what we have is our security rules as well that we could put in there. So for this example, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the network security group. We'll call the network security group, but we're not going to give any security rules. I'm going to do that in a later video when I'm going to show you how to set up a virtual machine and then allow access to that virtual machine. But these are the different arguments that you have here. So you have, name, which is required, resource group, which is required as well, location, and security role. So all of this is here as well. But what I want to do is take this code. So you're going to copy this code. You're going to go back over to your Terraform. And we can add a tag if we want to add a tag, but I'll take the tag out. So let's see what we're going to do with this. So Azure Network Security Group. So we're going to call this MKT Net Security Group, right? We could just call it that. For the name, we can give it a locals if we wanted to. So let's just say we wanted to go to locals, and we can say, let's come back over here, MKT sec group, security group. I want to do something different. Let's do net sec. Let's do that. So we can do that. And I just want to show you the locals, right? So we say network security group equals netsec. Network security group equals netsec. And then over here, just want to show you we're still using our locals, and then we have a netsec. So we have that there. And then for location, we know our location is, which is local.location, and then resource group, we're going to still do local.resource group name. Cool. So the next thing I want to show you is, we deleted this resource group, and now we're adding this one as well with the network security group. But the network security group it's not going to run unless there is a resource group, because it needs the resource group there as well. So this is why we need to use things like depends, right? Depends will say to Terraform, hey, don't do this, or don't write this code unless this is implemented. So we say depends, and then we say the network security group. And I like to put mine on the next line. So what this is saying is, hey, when Terraform's running the code and then wants to apply it, we're saying, okay, listen, we want to create the network security group, but you can't create this or work on this unless this is already created. Because what's going to happen is if they try to run this, it's going to look at what some of the requirements it needs is a resource group. And if the resource group isn't created, then this is going to error out. So in order for us not to get any errors out, we want to make sure we do it that way. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to Terraform apply. So if we come over here, we can see it says Terraform will perform the following actions. It says Azure Network Security Group.mkt netsec, which is this right here, will be created. And then it says Azure Resource Group will be created as well. So we're now going to say yes. So while that's being created, I just want to kind of go through some of the definitions of what we're learning. So one, locals, a local value assigns a name to an expression, so you can use the name multiple times within a module instead of repeating the expression. Exactly what I said before. Now the meta argument depends depends on meta argument instructs Terraform to complete all actions of the dependency object before performing actions on the object declaring the dependency. When the dependency object is an entire module, depends on affects the order in which Terraform processes all the resources and data sources associated with that module. So the dependency, right? So our security group is depending on the resource group. So what we're saying is, hey, create the resource group first, because if you don't, we're going to run into a problem. So we need the resource group in order to be already established and created before we can now go and get the network security group created. So back over to Terraform, we see apply complete resources added to, 0 change and 0 destroyed. So let's go to our resource groups. We see our marketing resource group is back, and then we go to our security groups. We see our marketing NetSec group is there as well. Our network security group is there as well. So that is good. We've got that all sorted out. So now let's see about how we can go about creating a virtual network. So our virtual network is going to be a 11/16 network. And then what we want to do is we're going to create 3 subnets. Now, remember, we were talking about when for the virtual network, we want to create the subnets. We also want to have a security group, which we already created a security group, but we want to associate the security group with the network. So I'm going to show you how you could go about doing that with Terraform. So back over at Terraform, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to type virtual network. And then we need Azure Virtual Network. And as we go through this, we're going to see it says example usage. As you notice, it has a resource group on top because, everything needs to be a part of a resource group in Azure. And then we have our network security group, which we've already declared. So we have location and resource group. So we already did that part. As you notice, they took out from their code the security rules that was in that network security group. So you don't necessarily need that. But if you're in a production environment, you definitely want to have some security rules there. And then when it comes to our virtual network, this is the code that we will be taking. So let's come here and let's take this out. And let's jump back over to the Terraform. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something like this. We're going to hit save. And what I like to do is I like to have a folder, a file just for networking. So I'll just say networking TF and just create it for now. I won't put anything in there. And the next thing I want to do is we need to give our network a name. So what name are we going to call it? So we can do something like MKT because I'm marketing. Virtual network. Okay, so we have our MKT virtual network. Let's save. I'm just going to take this here. I'll just call it the same thing here if we want to, but you know what we can do? We can also do something a little different here. So what I can do is I could go back to our locals and I could say virtual network. Nope, I don't want that. I just want virtual network. So I want virtual network. And what I'm going to do is, so I have, so basically I'm calling a local, right? A variable, but I'm putting multiple values inside of it. So name will be, what did I call it earlier? I called it MKT virtual network. And then address space, I'm going to call that 11.0.0.0/16. Okay, so now when I come back over to my main, let me close this out. I'm going to say local.virtualNetwork.name. Location is going to say local.location. Then this is going to be local.resource group. And then when it comes to the address space, we're going to say for our address space, local virtual network address space. Now for this, it's going to ask us, well, let's see what happens. I want to kind of go through it. If it pops up an error message, that's good. Get that out of there. And now we don't need tags. I'm not going to do any tags here, but we do have different subnets. So let's go back to our PowerPoint and let's take a look. So we wanted 3 subnets, right? So we're going to need a 11.000/24 subnet 1, subnet 2, and subnet 3. So we have subnet 1. So this is going to change to 11. We're doing that 00 for 1. And then we're going to copy this over here. And then this is going to be subnet 3. This is going to be 2. This is going to be 1. This is going to be 11. And then this is going to be 11 as well. And we'll hit save. So now let's look at what this code is saying. Let's go back over to the Terraform. So if you notice with Terraform, they have these subnets. They have the name and address prefix, which is great. But this one now has the name, right? Subnet 2, address prefix, .2/24, but it has the security group. So it's saying, hey, you know, this subnet, this is the security group that's going to be associated with it. And if you notice, it has the Azure RM network security group, which is this right here, .example. This is the name you call it within your environment, but it says .id. So it's saying, hey, the ID for this is what we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here and we need to take this out, .mkt.netsec.id. Now, one thing I want you to know is in order for you to get the ID of this, you won't get this until this has already been established. So what do I mean? So the network security group needs to be established in order for you to get the ID. If it's not, you're not going to get the ID. So therefore, it's important that we add a depends, and we do depends for the network security group because we need it to be established before we can now do that. But we also need Azure resource group to be established as well before this can be code. So this block of code right here, this Azure Virtual Network, cannot be completed unless it has a resource group, and then also if it has the network security group already created, because look what it's asking for. It's saying what's required is the name, which that's something simple. The location, obviously, the resource group is required as well. But we also need to have the network security group established before we can go ahead and do that. So we would have got an error message because I forgot to change it up here, mkt.netsec.id. Good. And then, so we have this one, subnet 2, subnet 1, 10012. Okay, we should be good to go. Let's look at our code again. We have our resource group. We already have that created. Now we created this as well. But one of our network security groups does not have an association. Excuse me, one of our subnets does not have an association with a network security group. And I did that purposely because I want to show you something later on. So we're going to go ahead. I don't want to put 2A. And we're going to click apply. Okay, so it's given us an error message because it says local.virtualnetwork.address space. It doesn't like the way that looks. So if we put this here and this here, we should be able to get that to stop. Okay, so what does it say? It says it's plan 1 to add. And that 1 to add, even though there's a lot going on in here, it's referring to this one module here, which is the virtual network will be created. And you can see down here is letting you know subnet 1 is going to be created. See how it says security group? It's blank. There's nothing there. Subnet 2 will be created, and then it says security group will be blank. But I want you to also notice, remember what I said about the ID? It says the ID, right, associated with this prefix, right, this subnet, it says known after apply. That is the reason why when I said depends on, you have to do the depends on in order for this to go through. So if you were to run this whole block of code right now, resource group is fine because it doesn't really need any dependencies. It's just a resource group. But the network security group needs a resource group to associate itself with. So that's why we have the depends on. And then over here, this Azure Virtual Network needs the resource group plus it needs the security group in order for this to be completed successfully. but it won't know the security group. It's got to reference the security group by the ID. And if you look down here, it says ID known after apply. So any resource that you submit within Terraform gets an ID that's associated with it, but Terraform won't know it until after it applies it. So I hope that makes sense. So let's click yes. And then it says apply complete, resource added 1. So let's go over to our portal and let's see what we have. So back over to portal, we're going to go to virtual networks. We have our marketing virtual network. Awesome. Now let's go to our subnets. And we have subnet 1 is the only one without a network security group. So how do we go about adding the security group to it? So there's a couple of different things that we can do in order to get that done. So we can just come here and I could just say, hey, add this here, security group, and then we have that one's going to be applied to it, and I could click apply. But I want to show you a different thing that we can do as well. What I want to do, and try that way too. So I want you to try that as well. But I want you to do is subnet, and there's something called a subnet association. So Azure Subnet Network Security Group Association. Cool. So if you look at this block of code for this module, it starts off with resource group. I just want you to notice a pattern there. Then it has a virtual network. Then it has the Azure subnet. And then it's just a resource group, virtual network, and then address prefix. So this one, instead of it being called out a little bit differently, like how we had the subnet within the virtual network, you have the subnet by itself, right? So you can create a subnet and then associate it with a virtual network. And then what we can do as well is we can now say Azure Network Security Group Association. So I'm going to take this right here and I'm going to add it down here. So Azure Subnet Network Security Group Association, MKT, what do I want to call that? Link Net Security, right? Network Security Group. And then the subnet ID is going to be Azure Subnet. So we're probably going to have to go within this. So Azure Virtual Network. Matter of fact, what we're going to do instead of that is I'm going to actually add another subnet to this. So let's do it this way instead. So I'm going to add that because we're going to do it that way. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add another subnet to this. So Azure subnet, and I'm going to call this MKT 4th subnet. And then we're going to say and I'm going to delete this subnet next. I just want to kind of call it out. 4th subnet, resource group name. We're going to call it local dot resource group virtual network Azure virtual network name. We should be fine with that. And then what we're going to do is address prefix. We're going to call this a 11. I think we're up to 3. Yep, 3/24. We'll leave it as that. And then this is going to add on to our subnet that we have here, our virtual network here. It's going to be a 4th subnet. And then over here is what we're going to do is going to say, okay, this one. So for subnet ID is going to be Azure RM. The 4th subnet, there we go, .id. And then for the network security group, we're going to do our network security group. What do we call it? Okay. Azure network security group.id. All right. So this one is going to depends on our marketing subnet being created in order for that to be done. And so all right. So I end up doing, it's a couple different things I could have done with this. What I was thinking about doing was actually deleting the subnet and then adding it here. I just said, you know what, let me not even do that. I'm going to associate it here and add it later on. So Terraform should say, okay, you know, when I hit apply, it should tell me, hey, I'm going to add associate a security group with subnet 1. And not only am I going to do that, I'm also going to create a new subnet, associate marketing fourth subnet to this Azure virtual network. And then I'm going to add the address prefix, which is 11.03.0. And then I'm also going to now associate this subnet with and link it to this network security group as well. So it's just showing you a couple different ways that you could go about doing this. So let's see if we get any error messages. Okay, so it's given us a wrong attribute. So it says virtual network name, Azure virtual network, marketing virtual network. So that is on line 76. It says string is required. So let's go ahead. Okay, so it needed the dot name. I left out the dot name there as well. And I kind of was leading towards that earlier when I was put the dot name, the dot there, and then I took it away earlier in the video because I like to show videos with making mistakes, but sometimes I purposely make certain mistakes because I want you to see, you know, how I'm reading through the code and how I'm able to figure it out. Because it said it needed a string, so that let me know the virtual network name. This is a string, even though we have as a local, the string is right here. So that's what it was referring to. So it says plan 2 to add, 1 to change. Notice it says 1 to change. And what's the 1 to change? The 1 to change, it should say, it should be over here because we now have a security group associated. So let's see. If we go up, let's go through it. Azure, let me bring this up a little bit more. Azure will be created. Azure Network Group Association will be created. Azure Virtual Network will be updated in place. Azure Virtual Network. And then it says MKT Virtual Network. Subnet, that's our first subnet. And it has subnet 1. And then it said it has security group. And now it says security group MK marketing NetSec. So it's letting you know that, hey, this is what's going to be changed. And then remember, we originally had it as nothing. And then now it's showing marketing NetSec. So that's what it means when it says going to be changed. So I'm going to click yes. All right, resources, 2 added, 1 changed. So let's go over back to the portal and let's see what we have. So we have in our portal, we have our virtual network and we should see a 4th subnet in here and good. So now if you can see, let me get to the names, make it a little bit different. We have subnet 1, which has the security group. And then we have the 4th subnet, which has this marketing NetSec. So we were able to do that correctly as well. So we want to keep it clean. We really don't care for this marketing 4th subnet. So what I want to do is go back over to Terraform. And I'm going to say destroy, Terraform, destroy target. And the tool that I want to destroy right now is I want to take out the Azure RM subnet. So Azure RM subnet dot mkt dot fourth subnet. So right now it's saying the marketing fourth subnet will be destroyed, and then it's also letting me know the marketing link marketing link net security group will be destroyed as well. So it says 0 to add, 0 to change, 2 to destroy. So that's what it's letting me know. It's going to destroy both of those things. So let me go yes. So it destroyed it. So let's see, let's take a look. So if I refresh, so that one is now gone. We were able to destroy that one as well. So I'm going to come back over here and let's look at what we destroyed. Let's just look back at the code as well and see exactly what it said. It's kind of hard to read it this way. So what did I run? There we go. So it says, does Terraform destroy target Azure VM RM subnet marketing fourth subnet? And the reason why you're probably saying to yourself, well, if this was destroyed, why did it destroy this? Because we didn't really call it out, right? But that's what it's associated with. So if it has nothing to associate itself with, that's the reason why it got destroyed. So just kind of wanted to point that out so that this way you understand what that was, and that's why it destroyed both of them for us. Now, another thing we could have done as well, if we didn't want to destroy it that way, we could have simply just took this out, hit save, and then hit apply. And what that would have done is the apply would have destroyed it as well, because it says, okay, I'm doing apply. I see that there's code that's no longer there. So I'm going to remove it from your Azure portal. So that's another thing that could have been completed as well. And there's multiple ways of doing this. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm just showing you different ways of getting things done. If you worked in IT long enough, you know that there are like 2, 3, 4 different ways of doing things. So this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of just mix and matching and showing you all these different stuff. And honestly, the more ways you know how to do things, the better you are when it comes to completing and doing your job and just getting the job, period, because you never know what questions you'll be asked. So that's what this is really about. So, this video was pretty lengthy. We covered a lot. So you learned about locals. We went through depends on, we did destroy, we did a bunch of different ways. We did destroy all, we did destroy specific resources as well. We created a virtual network. We did 3 subnets. We created a security group, added a security group in different ways. And then we associated a security group in different ways as well. So, I want to wrap up this video. I like to keep my videos a little bit shorter than what I have it here. This is probably going to come out to be like a half hour. But I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Once again, my name is Kieran Tross, and I want to thank you for getting through this video with me. I'm going to continue making more beginner courses for Terraform and coming up with, very different projects and different things like that, and coming up with different, scenarios. So this way we can now code it out. And sometimes when we code it out, it might not look pretty. There's different ways of doing things. There's ways of using count. So this way your code is more efficient. So I'm going to teach you, some of the bad ways of doing things. I'm also going to teach you some of the better ways of doing things so you don't have to write as much code. But at the end of the day, the whole point of this is just so that you can learn how to use Terraform. And I want you to see all the different ways of utilizing this great tool. So once again, my name is Kieran Tross. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you haven't done so already and you got to this point in the video, you owe yourself to like and subscribe so you can watch more content from this channel. So as always, my goal is to get you from scholar to consultant, and of course, consultant to expert. Thank you. See you next time.